Welcome back to Investing and Trading Live, sponsored by Trading Academy. As always, I am your host, Josh Lilquist. On the last segment, we covered some different earnings comments on the week. We had interesting quotes that Al had read in the last segment. One quote would be, things are great in the markets. The other one was, we're going to see a recession. And that's why we talk so much about understanding how to trade the market, not the news. What's happening in the market based off of facts, which is price charts. And that's why we trade and invest with a supply and demand strategy, because that's where you have the best odds and probabilities in the markets. And that's what it's all about in trading and investing. There's, as the one economist said about an indicator, there's really no magical indicator, but they can be used as enhancers potentially, but that's not really your decision maker. And that's what we talk about. A lot of this stuff in these investing classes that we've been having so many people come into at our state-of-the-art facility right here in Bloomington. But also, we're doing these classes and investing classes all across the metro. We're coming to a city near you. So if you want to go to a local investing class, by the way, we are a local investment and trading academy that trains people just like you how to trade, how to invest, whether you're looking for short-term income strategies or long-term strategies. Simply just text the word investing to the number 210-210, and that's for 2 seats for an investing class, one for you and one for a friend. Text investing to the number 210-210. Also, we appreciate and love our subscribers and followers on the podcast. You can listen to Investing and Trading Live anywhere you listen to podcasts, some of the main ones, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. We are going to make this, and that's our goal, Al, is we're going to make this the #1 global financial podcast. And we are on our way to do that. We just need a couple more subscribers to follow. And each and every single day do a session. We do a market update, so that way you get what's going on in the markets, the do's and the don'ts, the financial markets, and how to make smart investing decisions. So, Al, with the last segment, we talked a lot about the earnings. You had Apple, I believe it was great earnings on Thursday. There was some other earnings, Blockbuster earnings, not the company Blockbuster. Is that even around anymore? I don't think so. And that's a cool comment too. We won't talk about that here today. But just great volatility in the markets, especially on Friday. Market gaps up and then showed some bearish movement in the markets. But also, you look at other markets like the crypto market. Bitcoin on Friday shoots straight up as well. So just some good moves in the markets, although Bitcoin has been down from 73,000, sitting right around, depending on when you listen to the show, but as the time of the show, right around 61,000 for Bitcoin. So that's a great opportunity for investment. But also you look at stocks like, especially Apple, with it going up about 6% on Friday. But it looks just like the major markets. It gaps straight up and then seeing some bearish activity. But just an overall great move. And there are opportunities for earnings plays, but there are opportunities when there's not earnings plays. And that's kind of what I want to discuss on this segment here, Al, is for everyday investors. People want to get in the market, and as I mentioned, I think I kicked the show off. Yes, everybody wants to make money with the markets, but it's got to be able to do something for them. Now, let's just say that a trader or investor, a person, has some liquid capital, and that could be 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, 100,000, several million. It doesn't really matter what they want, what they have. There are assets to utilize the markets based off of the equity that they have, their capital. Now, when you're helping people get started in the markets, a lot of people just don't know what to do. Let's just say somebody comes into the academy and is brand new to the markets, doesn't know a stock from a stick, and are looking to get started, but they have a great job, but are looking for extra income strategies. What are some of the things that you discussed with them so that way they start to feel more comfortable about it, because they don't train this anywhere else. They don't train investing and trading in school. How do you help people become comfortable, but also guide them to the right path?
Well, guiding them to the right path requires knowing where they are now and where they want that path to lead them. So it starts with finding out what their goals are. What are you trying to achieve? There's some people that are struggling to pay their bills. They need additional income to pay their bills. There are some people that maybe have a nice retirement account. They're getting ready to retire, and they're concerned about the income from their jobs being gone, how do they replace that? How do they feel confident going into retirement? It all gets down to what your goals, what your expectations are. There is always going to be a right path for people. It's probably going to be a different path than it would be for maybe your next door neighbor or somebody down the block. But that's the important thing, is being able to identify what that path needs to be. And then we can put something together that helps you get there. You mentioned that earlier in this segment, I think when you started, you talked about putting odds and probabilities in your favor. You also talked about the supply and demand zones. Well, we put the odds and probabilities in your favor regardless of what your path is going to be able to achieve that path, but it's based on that supply and demand. And what the supply and demand is simply an area, a demand area is simply an area where we know institutional buyers are going to be active, and a supply zone is simply an area where we know institutional sell activity is going to take place. And again, we don't need to know why an institution is buying or selling something. We just need to know that they are and when they're going to do it. All of the pros out there and the institutions really base their success on trends, following trends, and oftentimes they're the people that start the trends. The reason most people don't do well is they don't know how to identify when a trend starts and when a trend ends. They either get in right as soon as it's ready to go the opposite direction, and they don't take advantage of the full movement of that trend. That we show you how to do that, and then using the right asset. You mentioned there are different assets that can be used, and sometimes it comes down to what you think is the most interesting to you, but more often it comes down to which one provides the greatest benefit to you. And it may very well be an asset you have not heard of, or you may have heard bad things about it from people that don't know how to use it properly.
Correct. They're just vehicles, and I want you to discuss those vehicles here shortly. But when you do have that right vehicle, it's based on what you're looking to accomplish with that. And as you were alluding to, what is your goal? What do you really want path that's designed to fit that need that you do have? And when you go to these different, I guess, I hate saying the words, but money managers, we'll call them. It's a cookie cutter approach. And it's not an approach specific for you. It's just what they put everybody into. So it doesn't really get your needs or accomplish what you need to accomplish. It's a basic strategy. And when people come to these investing classes that you teach here at the Academy, that I teach these as well, we customize a path for people. And that's why in these classes that we have, we go through what are some of the opportunities that people have, but how do you capitalize on it comfortably? And that's where we introduce you to all that stuff in these classes. So to simply understand more about these different assets, these different vehicles, just text the word investing to the number 210-210. And that's for 2 seats for an investing class, 1 for you and 1 for a friend. Now, Al, with these different vehicles, they obviously do different things. And capital requirements are different as well. Now, let's talk a little bit about those different vehicles. Mm-hmm. So you have, obviously, stocks. Right. Everybody knows that. It's pretty common knowledge out there. But you mentioned some people don't even know or have heard of these other assets. Futures being one of them, Forex being the other one, that's the currency market. And then options. A lot of people probably have heard of options but have no clue what it is. Mm-hmm. Now, let's start on the wealth side of it. Let's just say somebody is they have an IRA or something, and they want to be able to direct that themselves. They want to be able to have the returns that they need, but also protect their portfolio. What do you think is the best asset, or what asset are you seeing most people get into to do all those things?
Well, unfortunately, the asset that most people get into for their long-term wealth are mutual funds, mm-hmm. exchange-traded funds, or maybe stock. Mutual funds, we talk a lot about mutual funds, and at one point in time, many, many years ago, a mutual fund was probably a good investment for people that don't know that much about the markets and don't want to have much activity on their part. You know
what else was good a long time ago? A horse and buggy.
That's right. You don't use a horse and buggy anymore?
Not anymore.
No. And that's a good point. In technology, the advancements that we've seen in technology is one of the things that's going to keep this market going for the foreseeable future. But the one asset that most people are familiar with is equities, whether you're looking at individual stocks or mutual funds or exchange traded funds. Happens to be the most expensive of all the assets to actually be involved in, but stocks are a great long-term investment vehicle. If you get in at the right time, if you know how to manage the movement of the stock, and by that I don't mean you can control the movement, but you can control how the movement impacts you. In other words, if you have a stock that has a certain rate of return, you have the opportunity to increase that rate of return using perhaps another asset along with the stock. If we go through a market correction, which is say a 10% drawdown in the market, or a bear market, which is a 20% drawdown, instead of riding that down, if you can benefit with that particular stock portfolio when the market's going down, you don't have to wait perhaps 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years for you to recoup what was just lost. In other words, this is management. Know how to manage a portfolio, especially if you're trading in stocks. If you're looking for something that's more short term, for additional income now or in retirement, and I think the important thing in retirement is not necessarily how much money you have in your retirement account, it's how much income you generate off of that. The income is important to you while you're working to pay your bills. Income is still important when you retire. You're still going to have the bills there. The cost of living not only may be the same, it may actually go up. And I would say that things have happened here recently that increase the importance of that income portion of your financial life. By the way, which is a different way of approaching the markets and using the markets than it is for wealth. But we teach you how to do that. We show you what those assets are. But what's happened recently? Inflation has been out of control. The cost of living has gone up substantially. And I think I mentioned in one of the shows a few weeks ago, since 2020, if your income hasn't gone up by 25%, you have lost to inflation. What's happened recently? Well, Biden has proposed an increase in capital gains taxes. The tax rate used to be 25%. The highest tax bracket was 25% for capital gains. Now he's increasing that to 44.6%, which means in the state of Minnesota you're looking at about a 55.4% potential tax rate.
That's crazy.
Well, it's huge, and it's going to have a big impact. Even if you are in an income bracket where it doesn't impact you, it's going to impact you with the economy. What happens to the economy? There's going to be less investment. A lot of the investments might go overseas. Those are all things you can't control, so you need to be able to control the amount of money that you have the opportunity to kind of pull out of the market. Mm-hmm. So it might mean using more of these shorter term income strategies to offset maybe higher tax brackets that you would be in, yep, or offset the impact of inflation.
Yep, and that's a great thing about these other assets is you have the opportunity to do that, and by the dollar amount that you use, organically your rate of return is much higher. So with inflation, as Al is talking about, with a lot of the, everything getting more expensive, wouldn't it be nice to have another income strategy on top of what you're earning now? And that's actually how you build wealth as well. You mentioned you have two buckets in the markets or in your life. You have your income bucket and your wealth bucket. But how you build that wealth bucket is actually extra income. So having another source is how most people are understanding that now, for one. But they want to be able to accomplish that but not have to go somewhere to do another job. So if you have a couple, let's say you have some capital set aside that you want to allocate to the market, learn the skills and techniques before you do that. In these investing classes that we do here at the Academy and in multiple cities near you, we discuss what those strategies are, what you might need for capital requirements. It's not a lot. You can get started with a smaller amount based off of leverage. So once you understand that, then you understand, okay, yes, I can get in the market. How do you do that safely is have odds, probabilities, and an actual step-by-step strategy. We'll show you that in these investing classes. To come in, simply text the word investing to the number 210. That's for 2 seats, one for you and one for a friend. We do appreciate our subscribers and our followers on the podcast, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. That's Investing and Trading Live. We got a lot more to discuss. It's been a great week in the markets, and just different income strategies and wealth strategies coming up next. This is Josh and Al. We will be right back.